So next stop on the One Piece arcs that we're grading, going back 900 episodes or so, to Orangetown. This is stop number 2 along the way for the Straw Hats, and all in all, pretty decent arc. I have some problems with it that we'll get into, but it's a fun arc, and I think it pushes the story forward. So again, I'm not going to get into too many spoilers here for the people that haven't seen One Piece, which I would assume isn't much of the people watching this video. However, I think it's pretty funny that right away we see Luffy and Zoro lost at sea, having no clue where they're going, which, becomes a pretty common theme, especially for Zoro, throughout the entirety of the One Piece saga. So once Luffy and Zoro eventually reach their destination by some interesting means, this is where I think the story starts to evolve. We start to see a little more world building, start to see some more characters coming into the fold, as well as some lore expanding throughout the universe here. And once Luffy and Zoro reach the shore here, this is where we meet Nami, who eventually becomes the third Straw Hat. Nami's a character I'm mixed on. She's definitely grown on me throughout the hundreds of episodes I watched. However, early on, did not like her. I thought she was a very greedy character, but I think she was also a pretty well-written character. Despite her efforts to only get rich, she still has that deeper moral compass that's shown later in the arc. So although, not the most entertaining arc, I think this is an important arc for pushing a story forward. We start to see some world building and lore introduced here, especially with Buggy, as he's the first other Devil Fruit user that we've met in the show. And not only that, he also mentions that him and Shanks were buddies. They were comrades on the Rogers Pirates, who to new pirates were idolized. They're the reason most of these pirates became pirates. So I think that the introduction of Buggy here starts to set up the overarching story of One Piece. So overall, the plot of Orangetown is pretty simple. Luffy is trying to save the townspeople from the terror-inducing Buggy the Clown. However, it was around the Orangetown arc where I did begin to have a few problems with the show. See, over the course of the first 100 episodes, I would have discussions with some friends who were also watching it or who were fully caught up. And I would say, hey, I think One Piece, overarching, a phenomenal story, but the character development is pretty poor. For example, within the first 10 episodes, I know more about this damn dog, Shushu, whose backstory is awesome, by the way. Such a great backstory of just pure loyalty, everything that you want in a dog. But I know more about this dog than I do about Luffy or Zoro, who just seem to appear with no reason. They seem one-dimensional. So I do wish the characters were fleshed out a little more the way that Shushu was, because the writer did show that he can develop great characters. He can tell a great story. So I did wish that by this point I would know a little more about Luffy and Zoro and their intentions other than King of the Pirates and Best Swordsman. But really, there's nothing wrong with just knowing the intentions. I just wish we could get some early glimpses as to the whys behind their intentions. So all in all, I thought Orangetown was a fun arc. I thought that it pushed the story forward. I liked how it introduced a little bit more lore and some world building into the story of One Piece. My real big negatives are I just wish it would flush out the characters a little better. But it gets there, because again, I'm still here watching 900 episodes later. So final grade here, I give this a solid B.